your skills and competencies, you indicated that you are good, or you have good negotiation skills. Assuming I'm an organization and you are, I don't know, you've been a student leader before, so let's negotiate.
So the negotiation will basically be based on a project I'm working on.
Yes, a project. So let's take the Nugs basic school project.
Good. So the Nugs basic school project was tackling basic school issues. So we wrote.
What are those issues?
Alright, so we found out that at this particular moment we still found students who sit on the floor to study, students who walk barefooted to school, students who sat on the canoes with no life jackets and risk their life in the name of schooling. So we wanted to find ways and means to salvage some of these challenges.
Okay.
So in doing so, we ran a research because in negotiation you should be able to present a well-proposed document that at the point will be given a background of whatever thing you are working on. Then out of that, you can then leverage on what the individual will be getting in case you support that particular project. We are dealing with about 12.5 million Ghanaian students. Now we are working on a project on basic schools. Now we have over 12,447 basic schools in the country who are all tentatively part of the National Union of Ghana Schools. So in a negotiation table, we are going to present to you the opportunities available when you partake actively in the materialization of that particular project.
So what are some of these? I want us to have like a negotiation. So what are some of the opportunities if I am on an organization and I want to negotiate, or you want to negotiate with me?
Alright, so one of the stuff we worked on was we spoke with an exercise book company who was ready on any day to support the basic school project. But they were looking at a point how they could also leverage on the opportunities for moving forward collaborations they could have with the direct basic school, such that moving on whatever stationery the school be needing, that particular company will be providing them with those books. So in order for that conversation to be sealed, they would have to also come in and also support the next basic school project, which moving forward will give them the leverage to also have a business transactions with the school.
Okay, so with your interest, I see education. When you say education, it's I feel like it's broad. So can you give any explanation to that?
Alright, my interest in education is basically geared towards a basic school education. I feel in any phase of life, if you want to upgrade a lot of things, you should look at the foundation. The foundation to me I feel is quite weak and much attention is not given. So over the years, over my past decade, I've dedicated myself to contributing substantially to transforming lives of these basic school students. Today we sit back and we smile because certain students way back in Lambai College, Lambai English and Arabic School, we now have a bench to sit on just because of the love and passion for helping basic school students in the country. So over these years, has been a commitment to education and habits. I could actively contribute in making sure a smile is put on the face of an individual who has lost hope of getting to that height of also.
Okay, my last question is, with your refugees, I think you have 4. You put together this document yourself. So we have your contacts. And then, how much is a SIM card? How much is it? 10 cedis. 6 cedis. Okay, let's say from 6 to 10. So you have your contact. In case we want to follow up on you, and we don't get to, we can't reach them actually with the phone numbers you provided here. How do we reach them?
They are very active. Right now, if you try them,
anything can happen.
Their lines are never open. Right now, you can just give it a try.
You are daring us.
You can give it a try.
Are you sure?
Because I was thinking that with contact details, you can add maybe their email addresses, because with telephone numbers, you never know. Okay. So that is just a suggestion. Thank you very much. See, with yours, you have your email here and then your phone contact, right? So in case we reach you by a phone call and it doesn't go through, we know we can actually do that.
Now, as a president, it is very proper that you get to know the aims and objectives of the union. Are you aware? And that it is stipulated in the Constitution. Do you have a fair knowledge of the article that stipulates this provision?
Right, so the Nugs Constitution speaks about the objectives and aims of the national union.
Can you mention any three of them?
Okay, so the National Union of Ghana Students is the mother union of all students in the country. It's a union that represents all Ghanaian students in the country. It's the union that speaks to the welfare of Ghanaian students. It's the union that sees to the proper inculcation of solidarity and patriotism in the students' union. It's a platform that gives the union students an opportunity to present their issues worrying them for proper redress.
Which of the articles do stipulate the structures of Nugs? The structure of Nugs. Do you have a fair knowledge of that?
I can't really pinpoint, but I can give the structures of the national.
And so Article 12 of the Nugs Constitution stipulates the structure of Nugs. Can you tell us the structure of Nugs?
Okay, the structure of Nugs, Congress, which is the highest decision-making body, Central Committee, which is the CC, National Executive Committee, which is NEC, National Executive Officers, which is MIR, National Secretariat.
Article 3 of the Constitution stipulates the motto and slogan of the Union, true or false?
False.
Which of the articles stipulate?
Article 2 states there.
Are you sure?
I'm sure.
I was happy when you mentioned it was false, because indeed it is false. And that I was expecting you to mention the correct article. But then you also gave a false information. It is actually Article 4. Can you tell us the motto, just to justify yourself?
Education is a right.
And that of the slogan. Now, I think last 2 years we met, and you were able to juxtapose between that of the slogan. I remember very well the slogan and that of the motto. Can you give us a small highlight? I mean, a brief explanation of what goes into the motto.
Right. The motto is speaking about educational rights and not a privilege. The National Union of Ghana Students believe and connect to the Article 25 of the Ghana's Constitution that there should be basic free education, also connect to the SDG Goal 4, equality and equitable education. The National Union of Ghana Students feel every Ghanaian student should be given an opportunity to school without any restrictions. So that brought the motto. The slogan "Aluta Continua Victoria Etc." clearly tells us that there are a lot of struggles we are going through, but if we come together as a student union, we work collectively through the struggles, there's a surety that there will definitely be victory in our struggle.
Looking at the vibrancy and answering, or in juxtaposing between that of the motto and the slogan, same energy put in the duties of the president, as far as the Nugs Constitution is concerned.
Article 17 speaks about the duties of the Nugs president. The Nugs president is the chief spokesperson of the National Union of Ghana Students. The Nugs president is the chief signatory to the Nugs account. The Nugs president represents the National Union of Ghana Students in case there's any lawsuit filed against the Nugs. The Nugs president has the appointing powers, which he appoints various committees and also people on boards in the National Union of Ghana Students. The National Union of Ghana Students president represents the National Union of Ghana Students.
So they didn't get you water for me?
I'm really suffering.
You are suffering?
For the members, we have a dispenser at the back.
Do you want us to get you water from the dispenser?
Yes.
From the dispenser. So I would want Mabel to do that. I'm sure you trust me.
You do the trust more.
That's girlfriend.
Still, fear women.
Don't fear the chair.
I won't cover.
Fear women.
Lastly, the National Union of Ghana Students complements all spendings of the year.
Okay.
Madam Mabel. Do you want more?
Oh. Nelly, the operators.
Gentlemen,
You should.
Nugs, camera. Not captain a gentleman drinking water like that.
We apologize.
Should she refill it?
No, no. My mouth was dry.
Yes,
So I just
so I'm thinking she should just refill it.
I'm fine. It's okay.
Yeah, okay.
No, please bring him one more.
Yeah. Oh, yes, of course. I mean, I think they've been speaking for a while now. We gave everybody that every aspirant is just not fair treatment. That is the fair treatment. All right, I do this.
Your name again?
Daniel Concham.
Daniel. Mr. Daniel, please, what is the biggest challenge facing students, the Ghanaian students, this particular year?
Alright, one of the biggest challenges facing students, especially I'll link it up.
Let me finish. What is the biggest challenge facing the students, and how will we help those students, the Ghanaian students, including myself, to respond to that particular challenge?
Right. Currently, Ghanaian students, especially the basic school students, are having issues with infrastructure. University students are also having issues with hikes in their schools and all that. Moving on, I feel over the years, the seminars we've been organizing, the seminars where we invite resource personnel to come and talk with us. We should have a particular symposium where we invite the Minister of Education, where we invite Director for Ghana Commission for Tertiary Education. We invite all of them where we could have a discussion where students could throw questions at him and keep present their challenges and know how best those challenges could be actively factored in the plans of the Ministry of Education. Also, we want the minister and all these stakeholders to give an opportunity to the students to present what they feel should be done. And I feel that if that opportunity is being presented, it will go a long way in also helping. One of the challenges we are also facing has to do with the capping of GET fund. The capping of GET fund has really affected a lot of things, especially in our various institutions. It will be the happiest moment in the life of any Ghanaian student in this particular country when GET fund is uncapped. And that's one of the key stories that every Ghanaian student from basic school to the university through to primary school will be very happy when GET fund is uncapped.
Okay, so in what tangible ways will you support students through the ongoing cost or crisis?
Alright, so on the 16th of March, we've started supporting. Just recently, University of Mines and Takwa, they reached out to me of how there are a lot of issues, criminality issues on their campus as a result of improper illumination on their campus. When they reached out to me, I was like, I'm of the belief that you shouldn't be given the opportunity first before you start influencing or having a positive impact in the life of these students. So I reached out to a few companies who got street lights, who donated to these students, and now today, off campus, the satellite campuses of UMAT, students could walk freely in the night without any attacks. And this is what we promised to do. We are not going to wait till that time gets near. We are starting now. Actively participating and helping student warfare issues.
Are you okay?
I'm very okay.
Your eyes are becoming
Stress. I had a paper today preparing for exams and all that. So it's quite nice.
Oh,
I know.
Please, I want to, please, can you share with me some examples where you were a catalyst who brought groups or people with polarized opinions? So you said that all their voices were at the same table.
Right, I work, the Secretary for Education then has 5 appointments. Secretary for Special Education, Secretary for Further Education, Technical Education, and all that. People with different mindsets, with polarized mindsets. I brought all these young leaders together for us to work on impactful projects. These 5 secretaries for education came together to have positive impact in the lives of Ashanti School for the deaf. We came together, we strategized and came up with a working plan to solve these challenges in the Ashanti School of Deaf School. So together with different ideologies and thinking, as a leader of the secretaries for education, we were able to sit down and bring out a tentative plan to salvage some of the issues there. So I also work with a large number of appointees. I work with over 50 plus appointees from the Secretary for Education office.
Being specific, Mr. Daniel, what I'm saying when I'm talking about polarized opinions, I'm talking about opposing opinions, not just different people who have categorically different opinions, but opposing opinion as a precedent to be. If you come with people with different opposing or maybe opposing factions, how are you going to bring all these people, their voices on the same table as a precedent? And do you have examples of such in your career of leadership?
As part of the qualities of a leader, you should be able to accommodate all these ideas. When there are any issues, all you have to do is sit down, listen to each and everybody. When criticisms are coming, see it as free consultations. Assess all these and then come to a conclusion and you'll be able to work. I work with the Yadon Watches administration. I work with Anthony Julius. He's very controversial. I work with a lot of executives. When there are issues,
Julius is very controversial.
Yes, it's my brother. So he always tells me, for me, I'm very controversial. So we just believe that kind of thing. So when there are issues, our executives will be having different opposing ideas. But yet we're able to sit down and come to a conclusion. And that's one thing I picked from my president here at Omwachi. In the heat of events where people are coming with opposing ideas, his mood will be very calm just to listen to whatever thing everybody is saying. Then done with everything, he comes out with his decision. And now the decision is going to come out with is going to be a decision sieved out of the kind of recommendations that were coming from each of us. So when there are issues, when you are dealing with people with different kinds of mindset, the only thing you have to do is just give them a listening ear. Give them a listening ear, analyze all those kind of issues, sieve it up, and you'll be able to arrive at a conclusion. If you're a leader and you're not able to tackle this, they are not.
I think my last question with you, what are the keys to translating your vision for Nugs into actions?
Please come again.
What are the keys? What are the keys to translating your vision for Nugs as a president to be into actions?
One of the key missions will be the solid individuals I'll be working with. My vision will only materialize if at the end of the day I work collectively with my executives.
I don't know if you can see what I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm actually saying that.
And calm down. I mean, yes. Take a minute. No, like what you're saying, I agree with you, but I think for you people, you look okay, right? He doesn't look okay.
The stress.
Yes, I agree. You just take a minute.
All right, so we are going to work collectively with executives who are having different visions, but we are able to bring all those visions to bear. I do believe we will have a very successful administration working together. We are strong when we are together. We are very possible when we are not together. I do believe if we come together, we are able to do something substantial in the materialization of those great visions.
All right.
Thank you.
Outstanding.
Thank you so much. What an income.
Do you know Yenara, Yasasi?
Yes.
You know what you are doing? I was going to change my mind. but he will say,
Please, you have to
me.
choose.
Do you know it?
Let's recite.
You know it.
Yes.
Can you recite?
I believe you. Reciting is very difficult to understand.
You can sing it.
To the fullest.
What did he say?
You do the trust me.
Okay, sing.
Yenara ya sasim ya body dem mai udana na na no hwegu ne de to maya adrumi ne wonsoso sei de dia twaso nim dia twaso tonton kani mi ebe se mi kunya bremu amaya sasim no aso Omanyi se be yo omanyi se rini yo
Please, nobody should sing that.
Oma kubra
The last line. What's it on folders? On
It's on food branding. Then I didn't even hear that one.
I
thought I heard on my food branding.
Those times they don't know that side.
Listen to your future president. If you think he wins, what is he saying? What are you saying?
I want to hear what you said.
What did you say?
You know, it's on the lighter note.
The last part I didn't know, but I was just referencing it to basic school days when you are reciting 2 and 2 and it gets to the latter part. You don't know.
Give us 15 minutes. And we'll call the three of you here.
I'm sure you were a backbencher.
Okay, so this session is a very brief session. Very brief session. And it's going to have policy questions, sector questions, advocacy questions, and practical questions. But we just want to interact with the three of you at the same time. So pick up what we are looking for from all three of you. When you are posed the question, you can't ask us to do it. However, when I was given the mandate to chair this committee, and I had just two questions that came to mind, and I want to ask these questions, then I leave the rest to my colleagues to interact with you. So my first question is, see, the foreword of the Constitution was by the United Presidents of the Union. Who are they? BBC.
His Excellency Bombela and His Excellency Tinkara.
Slide.
His Excellency Tinkara Hussein and His Excellency Mohammed.
Killed.
Excellency Mohammed Bombela and His Excellency Tinkara Hussein.
Which year were they presidents? Killed. Which year were they presidents?
President in 2018.
Which year were they presidents?
2018, 2018.
Slide. And what is this forward about?
Okay, so the forward on the first page of the News Constitution was basically about.
Can you project?
It was basically about how they had come far in putting the union together, and then we had the chairperson, the co-chairpersons undersigned, and they did say that this was going to be binding on the union, and under no circumstances were you supposed to go back to the dark ages of the twinning system.
Under no circumstances were we supposed to.
Go back to the dark ages of the twinning system.
What are the dark ages?
So basically, under no circumstances were we supposed to go back to a twinning system.
Killed.
They thought it was that for.
Please project. I know you want to work in order. This what that is. So please project.
They thought it was that for the full materialization of the aims and objectives of the National Union of Ghana students, it was very imperative they join the unions, the separation movement together such that we could champion the aims and objectives of the National Union of Ghana students, addressing the welfare issues. The two separated National Union of Ghana students cannot actively materialize the aims and objectives of the union, having a separated front. But bringing us together will make us strong and see to the full materialization of the aims and objectives of the National Union of Ghana students.
BBC.
Right, so thank you. In the interest of establishing the recognition of the association,
Which association?
the National Union of Ghana Students, it became imperative, as my brother rightly said, that we find ways to unite the front that had been divided earlier, having an NPP leadership of Nugs and NDC leadership of Nugs, which one way or the other affected the growth and the speed at which the association, that is the National Union of Ghana Students, would impact the student front. Hence, it was very important, and then it was very significant that as at that moment, they find ways to pass an amended constitution that would fuse in several interests that felt that at the end of the day we should have Nugs as an NDC and should have Nugs as an NPP. Let us find ways to bring everything together and have one voice that can represent
All
everything.
this is in the forward.
Oh yes, the understanding of the forward.
So that's your understanding.
Exactly.
What are your 4 key takeaways of this forum.
So in the first place, we cannot stand upright as a union with a divided front.
Hold on. So I came to start and I moved to Kenya before that is what I told you. Yes.
So we cannot stand upright as a union with a divided front. And secondly, there was a need for us to also...
No, your first key takeaway is what?
We cannot stand upright with a divided front. So there was a need for them to create that united front for honor, respect, and recognition.
That's your key takeaway.
Yes, you said I give three.
No. I want to understand. That's your key takeaway.
Exactly.
Your first key takeaway.
Yes.
Okay. Your second.
And the second one is that in the interest of establishing the recognition that the union has on the boards that we were on, it was also very important that we get that outstanding and then single-handed junior, so that at the end of the day, if we have a government in power like MPP, we do not have an instance where one person needs to present a rep on the board and the other needs us to also present a rep on the board. Because when we lost that unity in Nugs, we lost all those platforms. Hence, it was very important that we find ways to get ourselves there. And the third one is that there was a need for us to build the voice again, because we have lost the voice when it had to do with standing in for students and then engaging in the interest of students, because this person speaks from another perspective and the other person does the other way. And it was very important that we build it and have one voice outstanding for us.
And your fourth?
And the fourth one. The fourth one is how best to how best to make the union attractive for people to contribute to its development.
That is your key takeaway from this forum.
Yeah.
Your key takeaway.
Alright, so my 4 key takeaways.
Yes.
The first one is unity. I believe that one of the things that was reflected was we saw an NDC divide, and then we saw an NDP divide come together to put up something like this. And I think that was a very good thing for the union. And Carol and Bella coming together with the executives to put this together. That was my first takeaway. The second one was compromise. They all had to realize that along the line, you say I'm secretary for press, saying this other person saying I'm secretary for press, saying this and what I was not going to help the Ghanaian students. So they felt that, you know what, let's come together regardless of our differences and let's make this work. My third one was,
I didn't get your second key takeaway. Compromise.
My third one was love.
Love.
Yeah, I think that beyond everything is their love for NUGS, National Union of Ghana Students. That made them realize that we need to do this, because they could have had all the power plays, but the truth is that we had a young boy in the forgotten corner in the school in Kumasi or Volta region and had issues to be addressed. Those things did affect me and affected the ability to do their work. The last thing for me was service. If we had the likes of former Nugs President Julian Covenant and then former, I think, coordinating secretary, being the name escaped me, and all the likes, the sitting president of SRC, Donati Ajiman, and all those who came Walker, was the secretary for press, all those who came together. I felt like they felt like, you know what, this is something we need to do for our union, and let's give it our best before we exit. I remember the last, the handover that happened at the National Theatre when Gombela and Tenkara all gave their speech. There was one thing they said, and that they felt that together they wanted to serve their union purpose. Like they utilizing the life. So for my 4 key points, unity, compromise, love, sense.
Alright, KOD.
Alright, my first point to be there's unity in strength. And it is until we approach the amalgamation agenda, we would have continued dining with the chicks, not realizing we are eagles who could fly very high into the sky. So there was unity in strength. Second, we strategically positioned the Nugs brand again. The Nugs brand during the separation has lost its relevance. And on any day, no stakeholder or any organization will want to love working with a separated Nugs. So in this amalgamation agenda, it's looked at strategically positioning the Nugs brand. They also looked at the future of the ordinary Ghanaian students.
Your key takeaway. You're on your third.
My third, the protection of the union's image.
What was your second?
My second was strategically positioning the brand.
And your third is?
Protection of the union's image.
Are they not the same?
No, please.
Okay, explain your third.
Alright, so strategically position the union's image as the largest youth movement in the country that tackles the welfare of the majority students in the country. So in this restoration agenda, it's targeted at restoring this particular image, which tackles the welfare of the ordinary Ghanaian students. The last I'll talk about is love and passion for the union. I feel that it is only love and passion for the union that will make us join our forces together. Reminiscing over the effort a lot of people have put in ensuring the union gets to that peak. Reminiscing over all these stuff drops. It's only love and passion that will push you to join forces together in amalgamating the National Union of Ghana.
Okay, so I will start with you. So these key takeaways from 2018, 2019, as you have been saying, from that period till now, how has that shaped the union? And how do you see the future of the union as any of you becoming president? Just give me 2 or 3 sentences. I don't want a long one, a 2 or 3 sentences. I should make it long. No, I don't have time. So just summarize that for me. These key takeaways from that period to now, how have they shaped the union, and how do they inform the future of the union with any of you becoming president? Is it clear? Sure. Here.
I feel joining forces together, the first note, has helped position the Nugs brand very well. One thing I love about the current administration is the current project they are working on. On a normal day, no organization, no Ghanaian students will want to support a union that has no future. But if you join forces together, it clearly tells you how serious you are as an organization. Now, anybody you work to, I remember the days as the Secretary for Education, when you approach various organizations for support, the first question they ask is Nugs still separated? So they are looking at the credibility of the National Union of Ghana students. So once it's very credible, then it will be quite simpler in investing their resources. It will be quite simpler for normal Ghanaian students to even come out to say, this is my quota as far as building the National Union of Ghana students is concerned. So I feel it is well strategically positioning our union moving on.
Are you done?
Yes, please.
No. So the question I asked was, how have these key takeaways shaped the union? And how does it inform you as a president in future? I think you've tackled how it has shaped the union, but you as a future president, should you win, you haven't tackled that. I'm giving you just a minute.
Now this particular reshaping has given me a leverage. Now when I become Nugs president, it becomes quite simpler tendering in a proposal letter for any particular project I want to work on. It will be quite simpler to work to an alumni. This is what the union wants to work on. And it will be quite simpler convincing the alumni to run into the idea you are bringing up. I remember those times when we were renovating the office and you approached a lot of alumni of the National Union of Ghana students. The first question they asked is the union serious this time? Is the union separated? Are you having a couched vision and mission you are approaching? And we're able to explain all these stuff.
No, you're taking me back. I want future.
That's what I'm looking at. I'm talking about. So I'm saying that this particular plan has given us a leverage. Now in the future, because of the amalgamation agenda, it becomes quite simpler pushing things through to the ends you want to get.
I think I get you. I understand you now. Fine.
All right, thank you very much. With the union then, I think we took it from the point where we saw Tinkaro and Bombila that united us, moving to an Isaac with Hyde that gave us a very artistic impression of the union, gave us a lot of credibility in front of the president, things like the Nugs food bank during COVID, which I believe was still, a show of the same love and service that I spoke about flew out to His Excellency Boachi. That did a lot of advocacy for the law students, and then the refurbishment of the office where we have come today. Down to Dennis, who is so passionate about helping get funding and digging the streets of Canania to get the school done. So for me, those attributes have still been in. And moving forward, I believe that with the same passion that we saw Mouse Kobina and encourage, we sit down, write all those long things for us, put a constitution together that makes it possible for us to sit here. I believe that with that same service, with that same energy, we can focus on the issues of people who cannot pay their school fees and work on things like students with the same passion. With the same passion that people like Dennis were digging Cananea. I believe that we can also continue from where they left off. And like how we're standing in Parliament and raising placards, we can get fund on capped. So that maybe, just maybe, even a vetting committee member who had applied for scholarship to further his PhD in Boston University, we have that opportunity. And finally, the love with which they came together, the love with which Tim Carroll probably lowered his ego, the love with which Bombella probably lowered his ego. And I'm sure on that day, it was even a battle who did the final speech we gave. I believe that with that same love, it is very necessary that we hand over an unbroken union in 2024, which I'm
All right, thank you.
Right, so thank you very much. I understand that the resolution gave us a roadmap and a guideline on how the union needs to move. And if you take a clear look at the aftermath of the resolution, you would get to know that the transitional process of Nugs went through the ICJ Heights administration. That was an administration which had a predominant mandate of maintaining the unity that has been established by Gombela and Tinkaro. The aftermath of ICJ Heights administration was what birthed His Excellency Boachi Yabem's administration, which was expected to put up an operationalized working office that you and I can sit in and feel comfortable and see people as a national union of Ghana students, which is something that we really needed after we had regained the uniformed, the united or the uniformed Nugs. The aftermath of the year of Boachi's administration was what gave us where we find ourselves today. That is His Excellency Dennis Apialabi's administration. And then on any platform that I've had to talk, I keep on telling people that Dennis's administration was meant to rebrand the association. Now you've been able to unite the front. You have been able to put up an operationalized working office. That gives you a bit of relevance in terms of existence. The aftermath of that, we needed an individual who would rebrand the face of the union to get back the lost hopes, to get back the lost recognition we had on the boards, to get back the lost reputation that we had given out to people by virtue of our selfish interest in the early days of the NDC and the MPP moves. Where we have gotten to now as the National Union of Ghana Students is how to build the human force that would man and administer the National Union of Ghana Students. Hence, into the future, I am optimistic that a leader who looks into building the human force, building the human drive, and initiating an action-driven policy that would put up a robust and a resolute leadership front is what we look at doing. And these are the things I want to put across.
Okay. My last question. The SIPAR stated, having been involved in the recent circumstances of the previously ensued hurdles, and having apprised ourselves with details of previous instances, we feel obligated to state emphatically that the periods of Nugs division remain profoundly regrettable in the trajectory of the students' history, a period in time which ought not to be repeated or similarly replicated ever again. I know that you have mentioned that it shouldn't happen ever again and all that. And I'm asking you this because you are men of ego. We agree that every man has an ego. And definitely to go through the stress, the toil of contesting for this position, losing. You may even think that you don't deserve to lose. So I'm asking, it's just a statement I'm asking from you. Do you agree to this statement? And would you serve the union whether you win or lose in terms of this statement? Do you agree? And would you serve the union whether you win or not? Who does that first? You, right?
No, you started with. So the next person is.
It's like,
Oh my God.
Alright, it's fine.
I mean, this is a very easy question.
Can you please?
Oh no, it's like, did you hear what I read? You heard, right?
I think I got it.
It's just a, okay, yes. And I'm just asking that, you see, when people lose, they are weak. And they say all sorts of things. And for me, my mandate here is to interact with you. And I usually would, after here, you find me just going off social media and just observing. He knows me better, that I'll do that. You won't really see me post a lot and all that. But I'll observe a lot. Because I feel one day, it won't just be Nugs. It will be a higher position. So if you agree to this statement, would you continue to serve the union, whether you win or lose?
Yes, I will.
You agree, and you continue to serve.
I'll continue to serve the union.
In what capacity?
In putting that across, I think there's something we also need to remind ourselves as far as that is concerned. I did contest in this election.
In a what?
Madina Institute of Science and Technology.
That's which year?
That's 2 years ago. In the 2021, in the election that was between His Excellency Emmanuel Bachi, the current president, Dennis Apia Kofo, and myself. I believe that in that election, or in that selection process, it was very regrettable. We had people clouded in security clothing, purporting to be whatever, stormed that election grounds, made a mess of it. Schools got there. We had stuff like order from above, you can't vote. We had people literally ballot stamping. And
You know we are live, right? And this is a union you're going to serve. I'm just.
we had, and there was those were the records. And my reaction after that election,
That particular election.
was not Rwanda pro the union. Moving on, the election has been an improvement in what we saw at least. And what we saw in Kumasi was a much better off. And I'm also of the view that in the coming election, credibility, transparency, and fairness is
Do
one
you
of the
have
things that
faith in this one? You do have faith in this one. So whether you win or lose, you serve in that capacity.
whether I win or lose, looks to remain as before.
Thank you, sir. Carol. You are next. All right. That's
Thank you. So I have served Nugs for quite a
you
while.
agree to the SIP paragraph?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I do. And I want to establish the fact that you need not to put yourself up for a contest before you even contribute to the development of the association. In the midst of NDC and NPP Nugs, we needed to unite the front. Some of us owned up by legitimate constitutional provisions to be on the vetting panel that formed the uniform administration that we have. We've moved on to serve as Nugs organizing committee chairperson. That played an instrumental role in the team.
Don't give
No,
me
let's
a
no. I
CV.
just no.
Don't
I'm not
give me
giving a
CV.
CV. I'm driving a point. A Nugs organizing committee chairperson that played an instrumental role in the mobilizing program that led the refurbishment of the Nugs office. The last year, I was also in the race with His Excellency Dennis Apia. Whatever the case was, I never gave up. I served with him, and anybody who noticed my contribution to this administration, there were a number of times I had a platform to be on air, and most of the times it was acknowledging the efforts of His Excellency,
I
and
checked
given
all of your social
recognition.
media platforms. I mean, the three
His
of you.
Excellency and given so much recognition to the efforts, even when the conversation has nothing to do with the student front. It tells you that I have a charge to keep and that I'm ready to commit everything to make sure that it works. People might, the conversation is centered on what if you lose? I'm not losing, but in any case, because there's a 1% possibility of losing in an election, when I'm in that 1% mysteriously finds its way into my life, I'll still be an instrumental person to whoever takes over the Nugs administration, because the ideas I have on board are ones that I believe in my absence, whoever takes over with a guideline given would be able to also implement it.
All right.
I totally agree with the paragraph 6. I feel when passion precedes or success is convincingly inevitable. Over the past years, I've committed myself to ABM saving.
Kindly to the observers. I know that.
Over the past few years has been a passion-oriented. Over the past few years have been a passion-oriented love of always putting smiles on the faces of young African students. The only thing that makes me proud as a human being is always putting smiles on the faces of young students. I've concerned myself with matters regarding education. On any day, I'll be ready to submit myself to contribute my quota hugely in materializing the good visions of the National Union of Ghana Students. Whether I'm Nugs president or I'm not Nugs president, over the past decade, this is the work we've been doing. Committing ourselves in making sure the lives of the normal, ordinary student is metamorphosed into a very nice future. And that is what we've concerned ourselves with. So whether we win Nugs president or we don't win, the National Union of Ghana Students will read the article that concerns itself with the membership. Almost every student in the country is part of the National Union of Ghana Students. If you are in a family, you would have to play a role in making sure the family gets to that height. You can't be in a family and demonstrate like a physical attitude. Regardless of anything, I'm a student and a family member of the National Union of Ghana Students. Whether I hold a position or I don't hold a position, I should contribute to my quota to make sure each and every family member in that family succeeds.
Can we get to you? Okay, sure. Thank you. All right, Dr. Anderson, Christian will take over.
All right, so I'm going to reach out to each of you on your policy documents. The first I have in no particular order is that of banning slaves in Darfur. You presented 8 policies as your working document for steering the affairs of Nugs for the next year. I want to find out of these 8, which one is your priority, topmost priority?
The Nugs into Aswa policy.
Nugs into Aswa policy.
Yes.
All right, that's great. If I understand your policy clearly, a comment. This is not personal. You deliberately, I think, left a lot of ambiguity in the policy document, and I know that you did that, so I will follow up and then give you the platform to campaign. And so I'm going to do just that. For this policy, the best way I understand it is that you are going to have a review of all the existing policies under the Senator Pialabi-led administration. But before we delve into that, what do you think will necessitate a review of any of these policies?
All right. So
a policy that has not been implemented for up to 5 years. In public policy, it takes 5 years for it to necessitate having a review and looking at the impact of the policy program. And so if within 8 months or even less, you are calling for a review, what do you think is the reason?
all right. So thank you very much. I think the additions to that particular statement encapsulates almost everything that my association with the National Union of Ghana Students have been noticed with. But most importantly, I will touch base on one of the policies. That is something that in my capacity, I believe, when I have the lot to serve as the next Nugs president, within the time frame that I have in office, it would be the first thing I would like to tackle. And that has to do with the Nugs integration scheme, which is a policy that gave me the nod to also serve under the Dennis Apialabi's administration. It is quite unfortunate that there happened to be a lot on the desk of the administration, hence affected the effective flow of that particular policy. But if you look at
you continue. You will continue. Please go forward. So you notice that, back to my point, in this policy document, you just wrote loose integration scheme, that's all. And so that is just to push me, to bait me as a panel member to give you the campaign platform. You now see where I'm coming from. Because you just wrote loose integration scheme, that's it. Nothing more, nothing less.
Yes, that's it. I did that because these are existing policies that we already know is in the system. So the addition to it is nothing like subtracting whatever that they have done. But if you look at my mantra, it says progressive sustainable growth. An initiative that is going to target how best we can progressively sustain whatever that the current administration has done. Hence, can I?
Back to the loose integration scheme.
Sure, that's where I'm driving at. Hence, if you look at the effectiveness of the integration scheme within the 1 year stay in office of His Excellency Dennis Apialabi's administration, we've seen less of it. And as I stated earlier, every administration has a focus and then it has a major direction that it targets. And this particular administration we had, as the Dennis's administration, was so much focused on rebranding and then getting back the lost recognition and reputation of the association. So we didn't see much of the integration scheme being that, and that is one of the challenges I have faced given the opportunity to have served in that particular office. But service is a platform to learn. I've gotten to the stage of understanding that we need to build the human force and the human drive of the association. And it is very important that we target much on how best to create a representable platform for the teacher trainees, the nursing schools, and at best, the private schools who at a point feel a bit isolated from the National Union of Ghana Students. And if we are able to build the human force, we can now have a full house to administer the activities of the National Union of Ghana Students.
So this is what I want you to do. When I raise any of these policies you've listed there, I need just 4 things. I don't need a passage.
Okay.
I need you to tell me what, in reviewing it, I need you to tell me what the aim of that policy was, what the current status of that policy is, what the problem you have identified is, and what the solution you are preparing.
Alright.
I need just that.
Okay.
No long passages, no long talks. So, Nugs Basic School Support Project.
So the Nugs Basics.
So with the Nugs integration scheme, I think I want you to go over, particularly because you had a role to play, and I know you were assigned one block. So address that in the manner in which he's asked you to do.
Okay, so the current state of
Start from the
What is the aim? What was the aim?
so
Because
the aim, so I might not, the chair, I might not keep records of the speeches you have given me. So when I'm done,
aim, status, problem,
I mean,
solution.
when
I'll
I
get
get
into
the
here, don't worry.
So the aim of the Nugs integration scheme was to make sure that we properly get a representation for the blocks that have not built a local Nugs representation. That has to do with the TAC, the nursing, NASA, and then most importantly, a bit of the private institutions. That was the aim.
Current status.
And the current status is that we've not been able to do much of it, especially from my office, if I'm speaking because I'm an illegal who had not to serve in that capacity. That is to say that
which of the blocks were you assigned?
I was in charge of NASA. And then I knew this question would come up, so I came up with the minutes and drafts of programs that we wanted to do when I was given the nod to serve in that capacity. But quite unfortunate, as I said, that the president had a lot on the desk to do. So some of these things that I presented to him couldn't catch his eye within the stipulated time that we wanted to host this particular program. But I believe that once I was given the nod to serve, it was also a learning platform. The challenges have been identified, and when I have the nod,
so what were those challenges?
So that's the problem.
So the challenges we had with rolling it out was getting that particular project prioritized under the auspices of the current administration.
When you say prioritize, sorry I'm cutting, when you say prioritize, so tell me that you had issues with logistics. You had issues.
So we had issues with finances, and then we had issues with how to have access to the various nursing schools, particularly because of the rotation of the academic calendar. On the other hand, we also arranged for scheduled meetings with the blocks, that is to talk of His Excellency Pascal's block and that of Dani, which was the NASAC and then JIMTA, which happens to have been divided. But once we clearly understand the status quo of the nursing schools, it was a bit of a challenge having to get all of them on board.
But
so the problem is finding a lasting solution to the friction that is existing between JIMTA and NASAC, so that we can have one block that we are addressing.
So the problem really was not finances. The problem was that even if you had been given money, you did not have the block together to deal with.
No, that is not the case. Even if we were given money, if you look at the draft I sent you, these were programs that would have been done for the different blocks. When people are informed, they are able to make an informed decision. So we're looking at how to mobilize the leaders of the various schools and let them understand the reality on the ground, the need to find a lasting solution to it. And just as the National Union of Ghana Students have found a way to resolve the differences between NPP and NDC, we can fix that particular friction. And truly, JIMTA deserves that sort of independency of their operation, and NASAC deserves it. The union can play.
You don't think that that could have been achieved through dialogue with both ends, and rather than just a program?
If you look at
because they had been given authority to engage them.
That is why I'm saying that the letter you have before, the document you have before you, has a letter in it that was sent to them. But I was waiting for a green go from His Excellency, which delayed because
your failure to achieve that policy was solely because
the president did not give you the green light.
Yes, because it's an appointed office and you do not have.
I just want to put that on record.
You don't have that.
No, it's not.
Because I would have thought that if you've been given a role, the appointing authority has given you the liberty to do everything within your power to ensure that that objective is achieved, save that some exceptions are mentioned. And so if those exceptions aren't mentioned, I do not think that you need the president's approval to have meetings with them.
The chair, let me come in here. If you look at the proceedings and operations of the current National Union of Ghana Students, it has been a uniformed activity. If Nugs is doing something, there is no way you would find out that another committee wants to stand up and say, okay, I was assigned to TAG, I was assigned to NASA, so I also want to organize another program for myself. That is to say,
that's not there have been times, you don't understand.
I wanted to land so that.
So what she's saying is very important to whatever you.
Okay, so I'll take that.
So if you do not want to allow
we have 2 executives or 3 or 4 here. There have been times that concurrently there are programs happening at the same time. There have been.
If I can be.
However, BBC.
If you are claiming that you did not get a green light for the current president, and because of that you could not, I do not agree with you.
I don't think you need a green light to have dialogue.
No, that dialoguing was something that wasn't a problem. But the point is that in the process of the letter you see, there was a request for a meeting, which never happened.
Between who and who?
The meeting between the block leadership, that is NASAC, and then JIMTA, because the nursing institution has.
There's nothing like that. There's no such letter. That's why I'm finding it. He gave me 2 documents. One is a minute, and the other is a.
I even want to prompt him on this. The document that you submitted to us, in it, the funding for the program, a proposed program that was supposed to run under your supervision, you did not mention anywhere that any amount was supposed to come, any amounts towards that program was supposed to come from the mother body. You mentioned institutions such as NYA, National Food Buffer Stock, NLE, and so I do not know why, if you do not have that permission that you are asking for, some of these things should halt. The only thing you needed was for the president to tell you, okay, I agree, go ahead. And then you were able to clearly state your intended source of funding.
So the fact of the whole conversation is that whatever that we wanted to do needed an approval from the president, because from the conversation I had with him, there happened to be a leadership, an individual who has a leadership community or a leadership fraternity that is into having such dialogues with institutions. So he wanted us to partner with them. So in waiting for their response, they couldn't come.
I'm waiting for the national president's response.
Yes.
So the letter that I have here, and the chair just indulge me to read, there's just a few lines. So it says this letter comes to officially request for a meeting with the national executive of the association to discuss matters of interest, to establish a working relationship and solidify the bond between the union and the leadership of the sector. I'm assuming that this letter was supposed to go to the president or the national president of the blocks you were supposed to deal with. So it was not a letter that was going to the national president of Nugs.
So this,
and also, were you going to send this to the Nugs president this way?
So
was this a letter you wrote to the Nugs president?
No, it was. I sent him a document that gave a minute and then an upgrade of whatever conversation we had had on the platform in a document form. But unfortunately, I lost them. But the secretary, I typed everything on my phone and I sent it to the secretary via WhatsApp. So when I needed to retrieve it, because I noticed this would come out, I copied it and I printed it myself. So these were more like a WhatsApp text I had with the secretary, which was transferred to the document form. And I just printed them so that I could present them to indicate. But the president could attest that these things were sensitive.
I'm not pleased with your how
You've given your response, but
I'm not pleased with how comfortable you are alluding your failure at achieving your objectives in that office too.
I am not doing that, but the point I'm making
However,
here is that
I want to move on.
Alright, sure, that's fine.
Those basic school support projects. Okay. Aim, status, problem, and solution.
So the Nugs Basic
Just
School.
4 sentences.
So the Nugs Basic School Support Project was one that was targeted at supporting the initiative of the government in building hopes and then revitalizing the face of the basic school institutions, which is also more like a sub-unit or a sub-community under the education ministry have to contribute to. So the aim of the policy is what I've said.
Status.
So the status of it now is we've seen Nugs putting up a structure which is more like an inspiration from the Nugs Basic School concept at Kasina Nankana. The problem is that day in day out conversations indicates that there's been challenges in financing the commissioning and finishing up of the project. And I believe that whoever that takes over the office must be interested in.
What's the current status of the
completion?
It hasn't been formally communicated to me.
Have you inquired?
Yes, I have.
And then what were you?
I haven't gotten the feedback.
Have you been to the project site?
I haven't been there.
Ever?
No.
But you feel it needs to be reviewed.
If I'm taking over from an administration, I need to
What
look at
if,
what they have
what
done.
if in the next week or two there is a commissioning of the project?
That means we will target another project. Basic school has a lot of projects.
Yes, and so you formed an entire policy out of speculation.
It would be. I formed an entire policy.
Out of speculations, you couldn't take the pain of verifying information.
But
as to the
your,
current status of the project.
the chair, your feedback doesn't also give me assurance that you said assuming it is completed.
Yeah, no, I had to assume, I had to put you in that assumption position because you have not done any checks to know the current
I have
status.
followed up, and as we speak, from the last time I spoke with the president, which is a conversation I had with him, he told me that the project is still ongoing and he's hoping to commission it so that whoever takes over completes it. These are conversations that you cannot formally demand that he gives you the formal documents to that effect. But if you are interested
the
in
reason
the
why
office,
I
you
asked
should find ways to have access to
you
this
had
information.
been to the place before, or was because maybe perhaps you could tell us that you've seen that they've laid some bricks. It's maybe at the lentil level, it's at this level. I mean, we just wanted that kind of, so that even if you don't have what is documented, but you've been traveling around the country. Have you been to Navrongo?
Yes, I have.
You've been to Navrongo, and
yes,
you
I
could not
have.
take the
Order to pass by and see where
Unfortunately not, because of the timelines. I had to rush for the CC.
Right.
No, we have CC and we are aware.
No, but
It's not a
The
priority
CC was
list.
at WA.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So from Navrongo, I had to move to and my timelines were not favorable.
Yeah.
However, there's been a
It's not
documentary.
as ours to
There's
determine your
been a
priorities.
documentary and a daily update on, not a daily, as and when needful, updates on the progress of that
So in
project.
the course of the documentary, what have you seen that they have done?
I have seen that there's a drilled borehole to support the project, and there's been some laid down foundation
So
that
they've
blocks
laid
are being.
foundation for it.
Yes, the video has an indication of foundations being laid, and as of now, I am so sure that some blocks might have been raised to support the project, but I doubt that it is nearest completion until I get a feedback from the
If it is
president.
so important to you to put such information into your policy document for the union, you should have at least taken the pain of verifying information on this list.
I apologize for that.
We don't need an apology. All right, the last one, I'm not going to go through all of them. Initiatives from other leadership units that needs continuation. I don't understand that.
That particular part talks about the other secretary portfolios. In terms of the women's development, we have Jessica doing the face of Nugs, which is a project that will not end in this particular year. We have projects that is undergoing at the societies and welfare that has to do with the endowment fund contribution to support individuals who are in need. We have other projects undergoing from other offices, which I believe that if I take over with the inclusive system of governance, we should be able to bring on board the ideas of all these outstanding projects and complete it.
All right, thank you, Clinton. I have Dr. Sylvester Owusu-Amoako. Doc, you presented 14 policies that you hope to achieve in either between 8 to 12 months. That's quite a lot.
1 month, one policy.
Some months will have to take 2. Bonus policies. Doc, is that not too much? Is that not being over ambitious?
Well, for some of the policies, will be run from, some of the policies will actually be run concurrently. So even though it's there are 14, and there are quite a lot of them that we could work on.
There are chances you can run about 4 policies in a month.
So
For some of the policies. Which of these policies can you run concurrently?
okay, so the Nkwanya Health Campaign, the health awareness campaign is one that we can be running together with our coach clinics and youth summits and Let's Mentor initiative. We can be reaching out to GHS students and telling them about how opportunity they can take in SHS, what kind of courses.
Do you think the office is resourced enough to run all of these, especially concurrently?
So that's on the bedrock of addressing an issue of finance. And if you give me the permission, I would highlight.
Go on, I'll stop you when I feel I've had enough information.
All right.
So
So for my 14 policies, in terms of priorities, the
okay,
first,
so you are moving us straight there. Yes, but I wanted you to answer the question of whether or not financially these policies that you are proposing can be run concurrently, sustainable.
yes. So I believe,
Considering the union's finances.
yeah, I believe it's sustainable. For example, few of the programs that I believe can be run concurrently, we are looking at policies that one is targeting the basic school, targeting SHS, and then targeting tertiary. So for basic school, what I basically do, want to visit the basic schools, want to tell them about programs in SHS, general science, visual art. Had a lot of people who have ended up reading programs that they regretted that if they had certain.
Now we'll be running concurrently with each other.
That could be running concurrently with the SHS coach clinics, which is being directed at the SHS students, which could run concurrently with the Beyond the Talk Summit that would be focused in the teacher training and NMTC colleges.
Yeah, so I understand you perfectly. For example, the Beyond the Talk is supposed to run all 52 weeks of it's supposed to run all 52 weeks of the year. So right from when you are handed over to the next week, you are starting Beyond the Talk.
So the argument is I want to run at least 46 talks. And we actually will be able to take it in batches. That, for example, for a week, we can actually run talks in maybe say Prekum College of Education, Prekum MMTC.
We have some 6 weeks that you are not going to run, but apart from that, 46 weeks. Every one of those 46 weeks, you'll be running one of these projects.
So basically, that's the idea for one.
Does that sound realistic? No, judging from where I'm sitting, it's not realistic.
So judging from where you're sitting, I mean, it may not be possible to run a new stock every
Within
Saturday.
those 46 weeks,
But
you're having CC. You'll be going for Congress. You might have to travel outside of the country. You might have to, there might be activities that require you and your entire executives. If you want to do leadership retreats, all of you be away. So already close to 10 weeks are off.
So you see, already we also talk about an issue of Nugs decentralization. We have a system whereby it looks like a central Nugs president literally has to be present everywhere for something to move on. We've seen and you've seen an improvement over the years. You've seen people like the general secretary represent the union at Abuja and all. But I have been of the view that let's decentralize moves into regional levels. Let's have regional.
That's another policy in its entirety.
So I believe that
Let's have regional work.
let's have regional Nugs secretariat to be able to, micromanage and atomize and address some of the issues. As it stands now, if there's a boy headed with Baga College, or there's somebody who is coming from Offensu early, sometimes and maybe it becomes very difficult for such a person to catch the eye of the National Secretariat in Accra. So I believe that with all these mechanisms in place, we don't necessarily have to run week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, week 5 to week 46. Some of these things can be run concurrently.
The idea is that you are going to provide funds for people across the country in your micro-managed groups to run these projects on your behalf. Is that the idea?
As much as possible.
But it achieve the objectives that you are looking towards achieving.
Yeah, I believe that we achieve the objectives. And one of the key things, even on that policy, it goes beyond the talk. It's actually about, so we have a talk on the side, and then we have practical entrepreneurship sessions, things like
You'll be funding, moving people in across all these regions to go and teach. All these 46, catering for their accommodation, expenses, logistics, all these 46 institutions that you'll be visiting.
So you see, basically, if we put a team together with the structures put in place, we have the various regional Nugs secretariats. We could actually run, say, 3 talks in a week. We could be running St. Monica's College of Education, and be running Prekum NMTC, and be running for Prekum NMTC as well. And for me,
I'm particularly interested in the decentralization agenda. So that's how many Nugs administrations at the micro level are we looking at? Is it according to the number of regions we have?
so the decentralization agenda that we are looking at doing, we're going to pilot it with the, as it were, the 10 regions that we had.
So it's not going to be 16.
Not going to be 16.
Are these secretariats going to be fully staffed?
So basically, the secretariat, our approach is that first of all, we want to approach the regional education directorate. First of all, to have offices for this various
Good.
sectors.
With that, do you know one reason why regional SRC is not even functional? The fact that at the regional level for SRCs that host huge numbers, they even struggle to come up with getting spacing to host their offices at the regional level. And so currently, there are only 2 regional SRCs that are functional. Ashanti Regional SRC, Greater Accra Regional SRC. Central Regional SRC started, they could not be sustained over a period of even 2 years. And so how much more saying that you are going to pilot by getting 10 regional Nugs secretariats? Look at the funding involved in furnishing these secretariats, fully staffing all of these secretariats. Okay, I think you have been over ambitious and these are not realistic.
All right, thank you very much. on the issue of secretary, beyond even the regional educational
So now we
office.
want to be at the regional, yes. Don't think as beyond. We want to be at the regional. Just
Okay,
like
at the I mean, these are engagements we can have, and even some schools very willing to kind of like host the regional secretariat in their school. I, for one, when I was SRC president, hosted student group in the SRC Union building, and that has drawn students more closer to being able to access.
Different from news.
Yeah, being able to access the facility. So people even knowing that okay, we have seen the regional secretariat office, that means that we are quite a step closer to getting that issue solved. So yes, it's a Herculean task, but then again, there's been the burden of making sure that people, even in forgotten counties and in areas that sometimes becomes difficult to catch the attention of groups, would be addressed. And for us, we are committed to getting this.
So Doc, let's look at staffing for these decentralized news offices. Who is going to run the affairs in the regional news secretariat?
Okay, so basically, with the issue of the regional news secretariat, what we wanted to mimic is we want the regional news secretariat to literally mimic what we have at the national setting.
Right.
But then again, that would be a decision that CC would, will have to make input to. We want to have a regional news president, regional news general secretary, and all those portfolios, so that at the end of the day, even for the various roles, we can actually even for the various roles, if we want to have a sanitary pad project nationwide, once the Secretary for Women's Commission commissions that out, Eastern region is in charge, Volta region is in charge, Northern region is in charge. And I have been of the belief that all the various offices at the National Secretariat here are actually offices of their own. If we are looking at being able to touch people, if we are looking at being able to extend Justice the current Wukom's project on sanitary pads and being able to have access to more and support the many ladies that we have, then I believe that even though we may have challenges with the structures and all, I believe we'll get there, and that will be a way to do it.
So Doc, on your decentralization story, don't you think that the wisdom in having local nooks secretariats in the various university campuses or tertiary institutions is really the essence of decentralization? That you do not need another layer of regional SRCs whose mandate would sort of be to manage the affairs of SRCs or regional local NUG secretariats, right? Regional NUG secretariats, whose affairs would be to manage the NUG secretariats that are on the campuses. I think that if you look at the decentralization process, perhaps the only group that really require a regional NUGs are the secondary schools. That what really we want to do in terms of decentralization, the Constitution has done so for us by giving us local NUGs representatives. Don't you believe so?
Well, the use of the word representative in itself, local NUGs representative, does suggest some level of decentralization. So I agree with you on that score.
And that they are able to take decisions that affect their local constituents without really the involvement of the national executives.
Okay, so this is why I think that even beyond having local NUGs president, we need the concept of the regional NUGs secretary. So over the years, Legon's business has been up to Lagos. Tech's business has been up to Tech. Gambaka College's business has been up to Gambaka College. And Kita NMTC's business has been up to Kita NMTC's business. But even if they want to extend and help reach out to other schools and put themselves together for a common agenda, we tell you that basic schools are out of this.
Sorry I'm cutting you, because when I cut you, it means that story, like, I'm satisfied with the response you are giving me. I'm satisfied could mean that I'm actually happy. I've just been able to score based on what you said. My question to you really is that if you look at the proposition you are giving us, it appears you create a redundant office. It really appears you create a redundant office. And in my understanding, really, the reason why you probably need regional representatives would be if they had common things that affect them within that region. But if you take the tertiary institutions, it doesn't appear that tertiary institutions would have common things affecting all of them. It would be KNUST having issues that are relevant to KNUST or peculiar to KNUST. Legon would have issues that are peculiar to Legon, even within a region. So KNUST, Wisconsin, Kumasi, they would have issues peculiar to their campuses. It is when there are issues that affect all students that you see that they escalate the matter to the National Secretariat. I think that we are only going to create another bureaucratic layer and make it more difficult to govern.
Well, I beg to differ. Because, so on issues like the school fees, reduction in school fees, which Honorable President Anderson led a very charge in terms of on issues like that, that's a very general issue that, I mean, regardless of what regional is doing, regardless of what local SRCs are doing, national will take it up. But it works better if, for example, we have a memo from regional Nugs Ashanti region that, okay, so KNUST came up with this issue, this school came up with this issue, the YA came up with this issue.
Why do you think we have CC meetings? Or why do you think institutional reports are read at CC meetings?
Oh, to update us of what's happening in various institutions.
That's what you're telling me the regional head would be doing, essentially.
But we don't have to wait for twice CC meetings a year to get such updates.
Even so, how difficult is it to reach out to the national?
Because if you're national, you've been an SRC president before. Yes. If your campus had an issue that you thought that you needed to escalate it, you didn't need a CC meeting to write or even call the Nugs president to escalate it.
Yes, you wouldn't need that. You see, the other
our view really is that you don't need another regional Nugs secretariat.
Well, I still.
It's going to be. I see. The thing about the regional Nugs secretariat, apart from the bureaucratic issues it would raise, is that funding. You would need to fund that secretariat. Nugs, you're already struggling with what you are generating. Your way around that would be to increase the Nugs dues. That would also not be a good thing, because then you are overburdening the students again. When the local Nugs presidents are doing the exact job you want the said secretariat to do.
You see, the additional things about this whole regional Nugs secretariat is that it brings the plight of our business schools and then our SHS into the picture. And KNUST local Nugs president, I mean, for once, or UG or Data Lane, for once, may not really be interested in what is happening in the primary school close by. So, granted that it may be expensive to run, it drives home still the point that we're able to reach out to more people, we're able to have access.
That is actually true. But in implementing a policy, you do a cost-benefit analysis. Does that need to escalate the problems of basic school? Make up for yes, within the region, for which you know there won't be any alternative source of funding. It will literally be impossible to fund those secretariats at the regional level. Trust me on this, you and I know, let's put the politics aside. It will literally be impossible, because how well have we been funded? How well have we run the National Secretariat? To now look at establishing 10 additional secretariats across the country. How many chairs are up here? How many desktop computers are up here? Let's look at the practicality of it. How well have we been? Today you complained of not having a chair to sit on when you came here. National Secretariat. And we know that the president has been proactive since he took office in trying to finish up this space. But look at the current state. So you are going to do 10 more of these in addition to this that we've not been able to finish in 2 years. And you want to do this within 8 months. So you see, when you do the cost-benefit analysis, it will definitely
The cons would outweigh the
definitely
pros.
outweigh the pros. And so I don't think this is a feasible policy.
Well, I think it's feasible. It was.
I think you've
Yes, we've spent enough time on this. I think who is the pre-tested education officer? I came across this and I'm confused. It's an error. So it's meant to be pre-tertiary. Pre-tertiary education officer. All right, thank you. POD, you presented 8 policies to us. You presented 8 policies to this panel. Among these policies, what is your priority? We want to know as a panel. Which one is your priority?
My priority is the Nugs Basic School Support Project.
The Nugs Basic School Support Project. Okay, I think you will go there because you find it to be a comfortable zone for you. You started initiating on this when you were Secretary for Education, if I'm right. Okay, so here it is captured as Nugs Basic Education Project. There's no support in there. Now, under this, you want to build a Nugs village, which will house a community of facilities, including a library, IT center, center for innovation and creativity, African history, art, etc. How far have we gone with the Casina project? Prior to Casina project, I saw videos of you traveling across the country with some of your appointees under the Secretary for Education office. And I know you did a community drive trying to raise funds in the street, for which I recall His Excellency the Mr. Apia playing an active role as an aspirant then. In all of these 2 years, we have not been able to achieve, based on what Clinton BBC says, we've not been able to achieve our Nugs Basic School project, right?
I mean, with regards to the building.
Yes.
No, my point was with the building, not with the project.
Perfectly, with the building, right? In all our 2 years, we've not been able to achieve this. And now you are campaigning to build an entire Nugs village. When we've not finished building Casina, the school project in Casina, Hanania, there's no Casina. And then you want to move beyond or overlook this project and then go into building a Nugs village. I honestly do not think any serious investor will want to give you a dime, knowing very well that there's a project that is pending, which you've not been able to achieve. And now you want to go beyond that and build a Nugs village. And so please, get me to understand your point of reasoning as a Nugs president hopeful, and perhaps so that all our students can understand what is going on in here.
Right. First of all, touch on the Nugs Basic School project, and then later education. I started the Nugs Basic School project when I was the Secretary for Education. After reading the history of His Excellency J. Thompson, the 1994 Nugs president, together with Reverend Kusu and other executives, who worked on the Mobile struggle which brought about the GET Fund. Despite worrying and disheartening that His Excellency J. Thompson's GET Fund has now been capped and now put basic school infrastructures and put a lot of infrastructure and put a lot of developmental projects. In view of this, I thought it wise that as a result of the capping, we have over 14,700 students each year who drops out of school. We have over 5,000 basic schools with no junior high schools. And over the years, this has been the worries going on. I felt as a new Secretary for Education, if indeed any serious organization want to get to a certain height, it should tackle the foundations of the organization. And I feel in the coming days, the National Union of Ghana Students will collectively want to materialize education and rights and not of privilege. I feel one of the thematic areas we should consider is empowering the basic school.
What is the state of the Kasina and Kana project?
Right, I've been during the short cutting, I was there.
Yes, we
And
saw
I've been there 2 times personally myself to monitor how
So what
the
is the
project
current
is.
state?
Current
The
state.
last time I visited the project, we were done with the water project, and now the project's at a lentil level. But the last time,
Lentil level.
yes,
You know what a lentil level is?
they started with the foundation, they've raised it to a particular level. That's what I would say.
So, or, because a lentil level is like that's where you put the bar, the concrete
What
thing and
I
then-
meant was it's been raised to a certain, from the foundation, it's been raised to a certain
So you have
height.
met it is nowhere near completion.
Yeah, sure. But per my discussions with the Nugs president, he's looking at completing it before he hands over his.
Which is in a month.
Hopefully.
In a month.
Per the discussions we
And
had,
so in a month it will be complete enough for you to start building the Nugs village.
the Nugs village is not a one-time project. The Nugs village is a 5-year intended project.
Nothing indicates 5 years here.
Yes, please.
Moreover, are you a leader who believes in continuity?
I believe in continuity.
Yes, and so I'm baffled that we have not gotten anywhere with the Kasina and Kana project. And you are preaching building a Nugs village. Another different project altogether. Or is the same building you are going to establish?
The Nugs village is one way or the other linked to the
So it's
business.
the same Kasina and Kana.
It's not the same Kasina and Kana project, but we are having an IT center which will equip various students with new.
So when are you going to?
Is your Nooks village a Silicon Valley model in Ghana?
No,
You know the Silicon Valley? Yes. Is that what you conceptualize as your Nooks village?
the Nugs village is going to be a project that is going to contain hubs that will train students. So we want to equip.
Are you going to build this from scratch?
We are going
Are you
to.
going to raise a building from scratch
Yes.
for the Nugs village?
The Nugs village, yes, we are going to raise it from scratch, but it's not going to be.
KOG, I don't understand. We have a month to hand over power to you. Okay, we are in June. So possibly, latest 3 months. Within that 3 months period, you have high hopes that the Kasina and Kana project would have been completed, fully finished, operational, for you to go and start a new village household.
It's very possible.
So in doing the assessment of this policy, did you consider the fact that, or did you weigh the possibility of it not being complete by then?
Alright, so it's been divided into sections. So it contains the library, it contains.
No, I'm talking about the Kasina project.
Yeah.
Did you ever consider the possibility of that Kasina project not being complete by the time you take over power?
I consider.
So if you are handed over to and Kasina and Kana school project is not complete, would you go ahead with your new village? Or you are going to put it on hold and then continue with the Kasina and Kana project?
To get the necessary resources, it's quite simpler, complete, and also riding on the available funding.
You've not answered my question.
The available funding.
Yes, the current president is working on fundings that's going to
Do
help.
you know how much he has secured already?
Not yet. But
Do
he
you know-
has given me a preview of how far he's been.
Do you know the cost
the possibility of
Do you know the cost of the building?
No.
You don't know the cost
He
of
gave
the
an estimation of around 600,000.
He gave an estimation of around. Was that just the fiscal structure or the included furniture?
I asked him how much the project is going to cost. And it was like it's going to cost around that.
Have you seen what government procurement cost around the same project, for the same project.
Yes, please.
We've seen what it costs for the same project. What, just opposing what it would cost government to build the same thing, just opposing it to your Nugs village, how much do you think we would, if we wanted to kickstart the Nugs village today, we would need?
Okay, the first part of the Nugs village is the library. We can complete.
So wait, are you going to just build a library and then later on come to build?
It's going to be a gradual process. It's not going to be a one-time project. It's going to be gradually done.
I'm trying to understand how the Nugs village will look like. So you're going to get a vast space of land, right?
Which I've started discussions.
So where is the land?
And currently the land is at Afrancho.
Kronoma
They
Francho.
have not yet, no, Akima Francho.
Akima
They
Francho.
have not yet gotten the land, but we are having
That's
discussions
Akima
on-
Panoma.
Yes,
Also, it's coming to my constituency. I'm happy. But my question really is that how much would it cost you to get that entire project done? Because you see, you cannot start. I mean, I would have loved to quote the exact quotation from the Bible, but she likes the Bible. It says you cannot start a building without first of all planning, knowing how much it would cost you before. You can't do that. I mean, the Bible actually even says that. I believe you're a Christian. And so if you want to start such a project, prudence would tell you that you must know how much it would cost, if for nothing at all. So that if you are going to say we're spreading it over a 5-year period, and you're going to have a development plan to achieve that, your plan must include funding. Your plan must include funding. So tell us, how much is it going to cost?
Right, so the food project is going to cost us over $1 million Ghana cedis.
Over $1 million Ghana cedis.
So we've started discussions on how to work on this particular project. I'm a volunteer at TITEL.
At where?
TITEL.
Okay.
So during my time when I was working on the Nugs Space project, the director of TITEL, Robin Todd, right now, approached me on this particular project, and it was like how we could sit down and plan very well on how best could also help. Because it feels over the years, the various students' unions are not having tangible steps that we can pinpoint and say, so this particular
A 6-unit classroom block cost us 600,000 Ghana cedis. A 6-unit classroom block cost us 600,000 Ghana cedis. Now, a Nugs village would cost us $1 million Ghana cedis. Do you know how much 600,000 Ghana cedis is shy of $1 million?
The Nugs village contains an IT center and a library.
That's not my question. Do you know how much shy of the 600,000 is from the million? 400,000 Ghana cedis. It means that it is not even capable of building us another 6-unit classroom block.
So it's just,
don't you think that the Nugs village is way bigger than 2 6-unit classroom blocks?
It's not bigger. With a 6-unit classroom block can even accommodate a
The
particular
Nugs village?
Yes, please.
That's really not a village in my estimation, but but I mean, that's how you call it.
I think I'm worried about the issue of continuity because you mentioned you've already started conversations around securing a land, knowing very well that we are nowhere near completion of Katsina and Kana. So it means that my question on priorities, when you take over and it hasn't been completed, is even a waste of time because we've already envisioned and started. Yes, and so as soon as you win, the people of Katsina, it's an unfortunate event for them. Because if the project has not been completed by His Excellency, then Zaki Alabi, then they should forget about ever seeing that project materialize.
It's time for my constituency.
Any project relating the Nugs Basic School project is something that's very dear to my heart. The file I would here contains a lot of works we've done regarding the basis.
Is that true?
That's
Can we change it?
Go on.
So the power you are holding contains a lot of work based in the Nugs Basic School project. Regardless of whatever thing that happens, the Nugs Basic School project on any day will not be left behind. Dennis is working on other projects, but during those times, when I was working on this Nugs Basic School project, I missed all the aspirants. He's the only one that came forth to support the materialization of this very project. He worked with us on the streets, entered the various places to get funds to materialize this project. It clearly tells you the kind of passion and love he has for basic schools. Same thing is going to happen.
What happened at Gambai English Arabic School?
The first time my team visited that particular school, students were sitting on the bare floor to study. And we canvassed support to salvage this particular problem in our own small way. And we were able to donate some desks.
Are they or are they not sitting under a shed to study?
They are sitting under a shed to study. And they are working on a new building. The foundation is working on the school building.
Which foundation?
A Muslim foundation. I've forgotten the name of the foundation. It's a community Muslim school. So Muslim NGO is working on.
So would you prioritize a village over giving us another 6-unit classroom block, given that it appears a 6-unit classroom block is cheaper than a village, and the 6-unit classroom block would serve students like the ones you met? Put them in classrooms.
The issues in the basic schools does not necessarily have to do with the structures. When I visited my team almost a month in the hinterlands, one of the key issues we noticed is some of the basic schools, a lot of them are having buildings. When you enter the buildings, there are no chairs.
So if you can raise 1 million, it goes back to, you see, you reinforce the point we are trying to establish, that if you can raise $1 million Ghana cedis, why don't you look at the level of impact?
Yes.
So we are looking at the level of impact. After getting a student to sit in class, the rest left is to impact knowledge. This particular thing we are building is going to directly
but not all these students are going to. Exactly. Whereas if you had 1 million Ghana cedis and you decided that Nugs had 1 million Ghana cedis and what we're going to do is provide monodexes and help with ICT or computer, whatever, for basic schools, you probably would be able to do more than 60 schools. Maybe.
Nothing stops the National Union of Ghana students from working on this project.
So you'll be able to raise 2 million Ghana cedis as Nugs president.
How powerful that union lies in our letterhead?
I don't dispute that. I just want to find out whether you believe that you will be able to raise 2 million Ghana cedis as Nugs president.
Nugs, the National Union of Students, can raise any amount of money if they have proper structures in place ready to defend those projects.
How much did Ghana need for the bailout from the IMF?
Over $3 billion.
The National Union of Ghana students can raise $3 billion in a year.
It depends on the project you want to work on.
You say we can raise any amount. Can we raise $3 billion in a year?
Any amount you seek to raise, you can get down.
Any amount you seek to.
Any amount the National Union.
I like your ambition.
Nobody is impossible.
I say this on this particular point. I say this thing on a particular point where the advice Robin God gave me. And at a point, we don't seek for information, we are not ready to get down to know the opportunities out there. It said to me that it brought a proposal out, and this proposal is more or less can be taken by the any student union and submitted if all dependent.
No, in fact, honestly, I don't doubt that the National Union of Ghana students can raise that much money. I mean, we've seen individuals raise a lot of money, millions of dollars for their own startups. We've seen individuals raise money for community projects, among others. So I personally don't doubt that we can raise 1 million Ghana cedis or even $1 million. But I am just opposing it to the reality and looking at how well we have done with financing over the period. So I'm not saying this to discourage you. I'm just being a realist and measuring what we've done over the years, the capacities we build in those areas.
The powerful youth movement, the powerful youth movement in the country should
don't worry, you fire me on campaign rhetorics. I love it.
They are rhetorics. situate this whole basic school project in the SDGs.
Right, so the basic school project lies connect with the SDG goal 4,
Which is on
quality education.
Mhm.
So quality education is achieved through furnishing various institutions with the necessary prerequisites to facilitate a smooth academic environment. And in
Alright.
facilitating so,
Alright, that's fine. I have the information I need. Alright, so I'm going to.
So I'll take over. I'll lead as a Okay, so I understand that you've gone on the constitutional January. However, there are a few things that I would want to ask from you. So, who was the first person to answer the last set of questions? So it comes back to you.
It starts with Sly.
It starts with Sly, okay? Okay, so Doc, you would realize that the job. So I'll take it in steps. We'll do this step and then maybe we'll dovetail into the constitution compound. But you realize that the job you are taking on, or you are requesting, or you are putting yourself up for, is one that requires a lot of time. It definitely requires that you are almost a full-time president while being a full-time student. You would agree with me. The Constitution, the qualification the Constitution places on the person who can run for this office is such that you must be a full-time student. When you take this job as Nugs president, how do you think you would be able to manage the job as Nugs president and your role as a student? Given that these days, almost every time the Nugs president is being called for some meeting here, one there and the other. We are trying as much as possible that we do not want a Nugs president who would come and say that, look, because of my education, I had to sacrifice this. And we don't also want a person who would sacrifice his education at the detriment of the job.
All right, thank you very much. I think that's a good question, much anticipated too. To answer that question, I think I'll make a bit of reference to 2018 when I was in fifth year medical school and was also the sitting as president of the University of London.
Hold on. You'd understand that the roles are a little different. As a president on the University of Ghana campus, you are on that campus. As Nugs president, your where's your campus? Central University. This is your secretariat. Miles away from this place. And so we need an in-house president too. Just take note of that before you make the SRC juxtaposition.
All right, so thank you very much. And there's one central thing that was running, and the workload in med school was a lot. SRC work was a lot. Advocacies here and there. Today, someone being stabbed and all that. So I believe that it's about how well you plan your time. It's about how well you structure your time. And moving on to, my last semester where I just have my project work and one other course to take. So already the burden on academic work is not as much as it would have been in previous semesters. There will be times that you have to skip academic work because something comes up. There will be times where you definitely have to skip academic work because something comes up. Because there's an emergency and you need to be there. Because there's an emergency next meeting you need to attend to. There are certain things you need to attend to for the purposes of students. And you can write to your school to excuse you. There have been times
So
where
you're giving me rhetorics. All I just wanted, because this is like a soft punch, all I just wanted was an assurance that you would be an active president regardless the schedule.
So basically,
This is a soft punch. The real question is coming.
So basically, what we are saying is that it's about making time for what you have to do, and then when things clash, you take permission and you do it for the student. So for me, that's how I went about it back at the SRC. I believe that will be more challenging now, but those are the things that I was thinking.
That's okay. The same question to BBC.
Thank you very much. I think in the process of running for this office, as I said, you have a paper tomorrow. For the number of times I have missed class, to put up myself for this contest is an uncountable one. But it doesn't leave me lacking in terms of whatever that is going on in the school. It tells you the passion with which I would want to lead the union. The same measures that I have adapted to make sure that I can create space to accommodate my educational activities and create that route to project my vision into the Nugs presidential office. It is that same way that I would make sure that taking up the role, which doubles up the mandate, I would carve myself in a shield that would make it quite comfortable and then appealing.
So we can have your highest of assurance.
Definitely.
The question for assurances.
Success says intention. Navigating my ways through as the English president and also a student of academics. To be quite simple, they are basically based on time and preparation. I started being trained in this particular process in my days as the regional trustee of the Ashanti Regional Student Representative Council. As a discipline prefect of Kumasi High School, whenever the region called out assigned students, I made sure I moved to attend to whatever thing the region needed. In coming back, what I have to do is to just sit down. Just that a lot of hard work would have to go into it. Appropriate my time very well, such that I won't feel in any of these sections. So I'll make sure proper time appropriation will favor the two balances.
Okay, so this really is my question. That this constitution has served us for almost 5 years. This is our 5th year. We all understand, I mean, Michelle took you through the forward and why we actually have this constitution. Given the life that this constitution has lived, and as persons who have witnessed that cycle, that process, do you think that there are any provisions in this constitution that, given the life it has lived, you think that as president we ought to change or we ought to amend?
Okay, so thank you very much.
So it is a review of the constitution, your personal review of the constitution, how it has served us, and whether there are provisions you want us to amend.
To my best of knowledge, the provisions in the constitution have not passed out for the need to review. However, the provision that talks about the blocks is one thing that I would like us to relook at, particularly because of the years of challenges we've had with conversations on GEMTA and NASA related issues. In our quest to create an inclusive system of governance, we must find a lasting solution to that. If it happens that GEMTA is an independent block as communicated, accepted by NASA, we must find a way to review that section and then accommodate GEMTA as a block. On the other hand, the technical institutions that we have acknowledged as a block have not seen much of their inclusion into it. So we would have to approach them, get clarity on their readiness, their acceptance to be a part of it or not. And upon approval, after consensus, review that portion and find a way to get that sort of formidable block leadership that we can say now Nugs has a block. Because as we speak, my engagement with the other block of GEMTA was centered on the fact that they feel they are isolated and we focus so much on NASA. I know this is an internal issue that has existed for long, but if we want to find a lasting solution to it, constitutional review plays a very important role in that.
So on the block issues, Article 18 specific, and I thought you were going to come to this point, and thankfully you've come to this point. So the Nugs. I'm sure you know the current situation with them. that it is almost impracticable for any president at Nugs to sort of start an engagement with Nugs. Don't you think that given that it is almost impossible for us to start that engagement with them, because a president who would do so at his own peril, we should expunge them from our bloc membership? And if we do so, the other side of it is that doesn't it appear that we are expunging a constituent, a legitimate constituent of Nugs from our...
Okay, so I am not a repository of knowledge. Hence, as the Constitution has rightly stated, that Congress is the highest decision-making body. With like-minded individuals, I'm optimistic that we can find a lasting solution to it, looking at the current state of the issue. And it's consultation. So as we consult, if there need be, Congress will decide. If there need not be, Congress will decide. So I leave that conversation not to myself as a president, but to Congress for a discussion.
Congress discussion as to engaging Nugs or expunging them, which of them?
Whichever way, it's a conversation.
So as a president, what do you believe should be the way forward?
The way forward is to discuss reasons. If we have to expunge them from the bloc's leadership, there must be genuine reasons. And equally, it is human. That it is a human force that took the decision that whoever does that does so at his own peril. It tells us that the same human that...
In fact, it's grounds for impeachment.
Oh no, see, it's a statement that has been passed. It doesn't make it wrong to engage.
It's constitutionally enshrined.
Exactly. So we can proceed to seek further inquiries on the formidability of that particular decision.
So how do you want to go about the engagement with them?
So the engagement with them would be decided when we are at Congress. But I personally cannot decide that I want to engage with them in that way.
You want to engage with...
But I think we can have
Nugs?
a backdoor lobbying, which is a part of the negotiation skills, and ask them how best...
What do you make of the diaspora bloc?
I believe the diaspora bloc is one bloc that is needed, that we shouldn't take off. Because if you look into my constitution, I have my policy, I have the Nugs exchange program, which is a program that would definitely have to liaise with the diaspora bloc individuals.
Yes, but unfortunately, when I read your policy documents, I don't see a specific mention of the diaspora bloc. In fact, the idea that we all get when we read, because you're not the first person that has come with the exchange program, is just really an issue of ensuring or giving Ghanaian students here the opportunity to experience some exchange program with other institutions. Nothing is said about the diaspora bloc.
No, I think that the explanation you have given happens to be a narrowed one. But then I opened up my conversation to how best we can create that sort of interaction and connection with individuals who are outside, like institutions that are outside. And most importantly, some of these conversations can stand and be very formidable when we have the diaspora blocks in place.
Yeah, and I'm saying that in your policy document, I do not see a specific mention of the diaspora bloc.
Okay,
it's an oversight.
No, but it's not an oversight. But once it's an exchange program that seeks to engage the external body.
Do you know the number of diaspora blocks? Do you know the number of? Yeah, there will be diaspora blocks. Do you know the number of diaspora blocks?
I do not know, but the issues of people being sent back when they are certain.
But you don't know the number we have.
No, I don't know.
A slide. Kindly take the same question, but on the diaspora block, I want you to address your plan for diaspora.
All right, thank you very much. On the issues of Nugs reform, I've engaged Junta, I've engaged NASA, I've engaged ONSA, I've engaged MELSA, I've engaged FGMS. FGMS is Federation Ghana Medical Students.
But these guys come together to form NASA. Yeah. MELSA and Co, they all come together, so they are duly represented under the block of NASA.
And we have a situation where it's not even Junta alone that seeks ratification. Junta has agreed that we have over 86 colleges across the country. We have more health colleges under us than the national, than NASA. So they have made the argument that they need to be ratified. Been approached by ONSA, University Nursing Student Association of Ghana, also talking about a bit of ratification. So for me, the issue about ratification and the Ruhaha goes just beyond Genta and then NASA.
So what's your plan?
My plan is to put all those bodies together at the round table to have a discussion to know the way forward, because at the end of the day, this represents a very segregated front in the health among the health students of Ghana.
As someone coming from the health students, do you think that it is really necessary to have these segregations? And if so, why? If not, why?
No, I don't think so, because segregation doesn't help us in any way. But
So you think we should put them together?
yeah, I think we should put them together.
Okay.
So definitely, that is. But then again, like I said, these
And
are.
on the other hand, you believe that some should stand on their own. I mean, that was the first statement you made.
No, let me put it clear. The issue is that MELSA wants to be on their own. FGMSA has not said that, but I know ONSA also wants to be on their
But
own.
as a hopeful Nugs president who is coming from that sector, what
so
do you say?
we have a very.
What is your view? What is your view?
My view is that
As a leader, you must have a view so that you carry people along that view. So what is your view?
so my view is, let's look at the individual weights of the various blocks, the various units, NASA, GIMTA, and let's look at their strength in terms of numbers, in terms of what they've been able to do, and resolve that matter.
Because I foresee that very soon the Computer Science Association or the computer science students in universities would say that if health students in universities want to create a block, then as computer science students in universities, we're also creating a block. Don't you think that at the end of the day, blocks like USAG and PUSAG might not have any membership again?
Well, so I
And
think
we
that
have scattered and
basically, that's what we want to prevent. By first of all, having a very honest conversation with ourselves.
Address
to
diaspora.
So on the issue of diaspora, what we would do is the issue of the exchange program. And that's how, back in med school, we've had an annual exchange program where 500 students go to Yale, Hopkins for a month to experience what happens there in terms
Do you
of
know the
academic-
people who make up the diaspora block?
I have an idea of.
You have, it's the reason why I wasn't accepting BBC's conversation on exchange program. So ask, do you know the people that make up the diaspora block?
I don't know definitely.
Okay, so I would defer the question to KOD so that if he deals with it, if he doesn't deal with it, I help you guys out. I do not want to be unfair to the both of you.
The issues of the diaspora does not necessarily have to do with even exchange programs, what have you. Just recently now we have Nugs China, we have Nugs Russia, who is actively working. I've been having a interaction with the Nugs Russia president, who was recently complaining about they've lost touch with the National Union of Ghana Students, and it becomes very problematic for them when they are going through certain challenges and want to connect.
So I guess that
directly.
you have an idea about what the diaspora is. So I would want to ask you a more specific question. Do you know the number of Ghanaian students schooling outside Ghana?
No, please, I don't know.
But you have an idea of the number. What's the idea of that? Because you've been an executive of Nugs. And you were in charge of, you were secretary for education. That's why I asked that question to you.
So the number of students in a particular country, Ghanaian students, the delegates or the numbers are picked from the embassy.
Exactly.
And normally when there are issues, we connect directly with the embassy to know the actual issues and find lasting solutions. Very recently at Sudan, brought my attention to the fact that we should be able to have a solid other unions in certain places that Ghanaian students find themselves there. Getting to the recent issue that happened at Sudan, I was surprised. To know
I asked you of the number. Do you know the number?
the number of.
Ghanaian students schooling abroad.
For the number, we don't know the full number.
So would you agree with me that as Nugs, one of the things we have perhaps failed at is to ensure that our full constituents, the full scope of our constituents, we address their concerns. Because you know that the reason why it is National Union of Ghana students is because a Ghanaian student who would go outside the country is part of our constituents. Now, it is easy to even know the numbers or to know the people who are schooling in different countries, because most likely, apart from the embassies, Get Fund has the number of students they are funding. Scholarship Secretariat has the number of students they are funding. GMPC, all the scholarship secretariats, they give you the numbers. Don't you think that as Nugs, when you guys get the opportunity to come into office, one of the key areas you should look at is the people who are diaspora, because they are part of your blocks. Article 18, they make them part of your, it makes them...
A part of it is captured in my policy document.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, it's at the student forum section because of the discussions I've had.
So I just want to pick your minds on how you would establish those blocks well, because there are people in some regions that they don't even have Nugs, whatever there. An issue happens and we don't even know who to contact. It just has to be someone who has a friend somewhere, no proper coordination. And you understand the frustration that it can come with as a student living there. So just, you need to think about it. Because of time, I'll not let you respond to these things again. But I think that I'm really concerned about the kind of leadership that we have and the kind of representation we give to our people. So think about it and come up with ways that we can really capture our people and have a database of our people. Because the embassies do. If you request for all your students, they'll round them all up and bring them to you in Ghana here.
Alright, so we are going to go rounds. We ask you, give us just one sentence on that particular question and move on to the next person. Please, I hope that's agreed. That you guys have agreed with that. And you understand.
One sentence.
Just one.
A sentence ends with a full stop.
Okay. The first round will tell how things will go. Alright, so what is your thoughts, or what are your thoughts on the involvement of national partisan politics in Nugs and its leadership process? I'll start from Dr. Sly. Oh yeah. The last question and then started from me. So okay, so where is this supposed to be? BBC or TV? Okay, so BBC.
The question is,
what are your thoughts on the involvement of national partisan politics in Nugs and its leadership process?
okay, so I believe that we have created that loophole for political parties to infiltrate into our activities. And I blame the constituents of the union because as a result of our financial independence, it leaves us to go begging these political individuals to raise funds for the projects that we are talking about. That is one of the major
financial dependency.
Financial dependency, sorry. Financial dependency. And this is one of the reasons why they seem to have a bit of power and authority over some of the decisions we want to take. Finding a remedy to this particular challenge has to do with how we are going to invoke the Article 2219 that talks about subscription, in terms of how we are able to operationalize our internal mechanisms for generating revenue. Because if every single institution is made to understand that at the end of the first semester, if not 100%, a 30% of the dues can be paid.
You'll be next RC president.
Yes.
Alright,
so if that happens,
he's asked me to cut you some cloth.
Alright, thank you.
You wanted the question?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
What we did to here.
Thank you very much. I think our new ability now, but I'm just being a philosopher. It says that if you have your hand in somebody's law, you can't.
Which of them has been the philosopher?
I think if you put your but that was really sarcastic.
No, I mean,
if you have your hand in someone's mouth, you don't know the person. I believe that you run to the politicians because at the end of the day, almost every project you want to fund, doing administration, is money you have to raise. Nugs administrations have had to run on profits of about 2,600. I think the current Nugs administration had 2,600 handed over to them. And out of that, they have to start a Casina and Kana project. Out of that, they have to do things like on capital fund and all. So there's a basic problem of finance. And if you walk to the offices of politicians and fund, some way, somehow, sometimes I feel like it may compromise the lens from which we see things, our position on things like how effective things like free SHS has been, how many schools are in the bushes and all those kind of things. So I believe that the issue about political infiltration, the baseline of that issue is the issue of funds. Then I'll allude to the bit about BBC
KOD.
making.
You are leading to a lot of people. KOD.
Right. Political infiltration can basically be linked to the inability of the National Union of Ghana students to fund most of its projects. And also the advocacies pushed by the unions.
Yeah, the one who answered the question, so he would have been the one to start. So KOD, I think your story is also the same, funding. Tell us, how are you going to address funding for Nugs?
All right.
Okay, now you have a minute for every question.
So I'll take inspirations from the current Nugs president. And it's designed to work on the Nugs Basic School project in Asnana. The National Union of Ghana Students partnered with a telecommunication company, FLTO, which brought about the data SIM cards. The data SIM cards deal brought about a permission that the number of data SIMs that are able to get to the Ghanaian students, the National Union of Ghana students, is going to have a quota which will be given.
How has that policy fared? How has that policy fared?
It's gone a long way to give the union a seed capital to support the Nugs.
How much seed capital?
For now, I can't really pinpoint the amount of money. Now, Ken University embarked on a project where now, when you get to Ken University, we have all students, over 100,000 students are having data SIM. When you get to other universities are also having this same implementation. Moving forward, I feel we could have.
So as I stated earlier that you can only become powerful if you are able to advance on your internal financial mechanisms that you have put in place.
Because you have 1 million.
Hence, it is expected that we evoke that particular provision. You know, CC members are student leaders, and these are people that understand the challenges that we are in. If we want to find a solution to our challenge, then let us use the document that guides our operation to find a solution to it. You might not be able to make the 100% at the upfront, as the Constitution states, but you can make a contribution of 30%. If the University of Ghana having 40,000 people pays a 30% on the 40,000, I think it gives us 12,000. Multiply that to about 10 big universities that has a similar population, and let us draw it down to the various institutions that are lessened. If the teacher trainees and nursing schools are properly integrated, which the policy would introduce a quota as a part of their school fees for a contribution for Nugs, just as we have it being done to other universities, it means that the union will be raising some funds to support most of the things that we'll be doing.
Thank you very much. I think there's a big issue we need to tackle, and for me, it's dues and source. And TAG is doing it, Nugs is doing it, and I think that it will require things like Vice Chancellors Ghana, or require reaching out to the teacher training principals. It requires reaching out to principals of NADs. But it's a bold initiative.
Use that source.
Yeah. It's a bold initiative.
Even for university students.
It's a bold initiative. I think that we should be able to look at, if we really want to tackle the dues aspect of raising funds into the union. That's one. The other bit is corporate institutions. Our ability to be able to pitch an idea, if you want to, like the school village project, if you're able to pitch such a project, a 2 million project to MTN, I believe that those are the valid.
All right, AU's Agenda 2063 2063 and the role of groups in achieving that agenda. I'm starting from
Slide.
let us slide now.
You say again.
AU's agenda 2063 and the role of groups in achieving that agenda.
Agenda 20. Is that looking like that?
Alright. Next person.
Next person.
AOD.
So BBC.
BBC.
Please, I also have no idea, but I'm open to education.
No, you will dedicate to later on. That's why these days we're giving you 1 minute. KOD, you have the floor. You have no idea.
This is serious. It's shocking. Okay. That's fine, but it's very shocking. The notion that our education system is failing in Ghana. I want you to express your opinion. This is opinion, it's personal opinion, on why you think or you do not think that Ghana's education sector is failing.
Alright, so I don't think that Ghana's education system is failing. I think that we've actually made room for more people to have access to the education system. However, I believe that there are certain things that we still need to check. Because, for example, the length of stay of students, like TAT students, some come level 100, 200 come, 300, 400 stay. The length of time they stay. What we need to do is to improve the infrastructure so that with time we can have all these streams coming. But the ability to get a lot of people to have access to education for me has been a great achievement, and we can improve on that. Thank you.
KOD. BBC, right?
It's BBC.
BBC, sorry.
So, quality education in Ghana is communicated on the premise of how Get Fund makes contributions to it. And this is the case. We've had instances where Get Fund has been cut, such that the allocation that has been channeled to the institutions for projects have been limited by virtue of certain decisions that have been taken by Parliament. I believe it's about time we lead the charge in supporting our quest to uncap Get Fund so that we can have that allocation.
Have you been part of the
yes, I was
Get
a part
Funds
of it. Kind courtesy, His Excellency Dennis. I think all of us were invited. We gladly presented ourselves in Parliament. So we would also have to pursue it because once the allocations doesn't get to them, our conversations on building up the phase of our educational sector would be much of a cost-90 work. So we get it from where the challenge is coming from, we find solution to it.
Alright, KOD.
I feel our education system is not failing. I'm happy for the new introduction of the new curriculum systems which have been implemented. That notwithstanding, I feel there should be a lot of funding going into our basic schools, going into funding a lot of infrastructural projects in our various institutions. I feel when those systems are put in place, it will help facilitate and fast track a smooth environment for academic activities.
Alright, thank you. University administrations have in recent time blatantly disregarded the orders from Parliamentary Select Committee on Education, especially on the issue of school fees. Do you think Nugs needs to take a radical approach at getting them to obey these legally binding rules or not? Your thoughts as incoming president. Where does it start from? KOD.
Alright, this looks should not take the radicality approach. I feel on any day before we get to that last end, we have to engage in a lot of constructive stakeholder engagement. Recently, when there were issues with that has to do with the 15%, various universities taking with the 15% increment. Looks played a pivotal role in advocating, having a lot of stakeholder engagement. So I feel that our own slide in the strength of we being able to advocate properly. So I feel proper advocation will help various universities to comply by whatever thing that comes up.
All right. Who is next?
All right, thank you very much. I believe that we can take the wind out of the sail. So
This is my point.
Taking the wind out of whose sail?
Before we have the semester start, okay, we can approach it, know their position on things like increment. Probably there's been an increment of 5%, there's been an increment of 10% on previously approved fees. Then we can make whatever advocacies we want to do from that point.
You know the increments are not across board.
But you realize that with tuition fees, for example, in the just ended
semester,
there was an issue that they should increase with not more than 15% of the previously approved fees. You get it? So once we're able to take it from there and advance and advocate for a reduction if need be, then it creates a certain platform where we already know what to expect from the investors.
ABC.
So thank you very much. Negotiation comes in different stages, and the last resort is being radical. As an intellectual community like the National Union of Ghana Students, I must, on this note, applaud His Excellency Dennis for how he approached the issue of increments in school fees. You would have to be informed, and you would have to make a lot of research and be meticulous about information before you can make a case. And that is one thing that I saw him do, that you saw him engaging with an act in Parliament that validates that when it is increased to 15%, you cannot increase it beyond that. And that is what made him proceed with this conversation to the Ministry of Education to invite the Vice Chancellors. So if we want to find ways to some of these challenges, we should get ourselves updated with it and then know where and when the issues should get to. And this can only be done when we have a student leader who is an advocate, a meticulous person, and an individual who is well endowed with negotiation skills, not necessarily going the radical way.
Do you think we should have an opinion on the discourse to remove the incumbent Minister of Finance? Who is starting? All right, BBC.
I think Nugs can have a stake in it when the time is due, when it is appropriate, considering the current heat around the conversation. I've always maintained the fact that until you have been able to present your case in a way that gives you a neutral position, it is very difficult for you to make a comment on political conversations. If for a reason we think the finance minister needs to be out of office, we must have...
Have you equipped yourself with sufficient information to make a neutral decision?
Pardon?
Have you equipped yourself with sufficient information to make a neutral decision?
When the issue comes up, definitely I would have to...
The issues have been up already. Have you equipped yourself with sufficient information?
Oh yes, I have, and then in my thoughts, I don't think it's right the union goes in straightforward to request or support the call of removing the finance minister. I think it's a conversation that needs to be picked from a peak and then sent down to an end. So let us be very discerning.
Let me understand the last part.
Let's be very much concerned about our approach to some of these political issues.
All right, thank you very much. On the issue of the finance minister, I think that as a union, what we should focus on is what we want. So, for example, when it comes to the issue of our public debt fund, regardless of the fact that the finance minister is in charge of the case, it's an act of parliament that can deal with that issue. It's an act of parliament that can deal with that issue, and it's in parliament now. So then again, let's channel our efforts there and let's work on stuff like that. When it comes to issues of student loan, trust fund.
So are you saying that regardless of how woefully some finance minister is performing, I'm not making a judgment on this finance minister, I'm saying that regardless of how woefully some finance minister is performing, you should not have a say if it doesn't involve debt fund and student loan.
Nugs can definitely have a say on national issues.
So on the current discourse, should Nugs have a say?
I feel we have not exhausted we've not exhausted the processes we have yet. On the issue of uncapping debt fund, we've made progress. It's in Parliament, and we are yet to have issues discussed. And that's outside.
Understand the question.
Oh no, I didn't understand you.
It is not out of place for Nugs to have a decision on the removal or even the stay of the finance ministry. The decision of Nugs is binded on constructive engagement with 8 blocks and all that. So before Nugs arrive at a particular decision, we would have had a lot of constructive discussions on the finances of Nugs. If the community of Nugs have sat down to really deliberate on this particular issue and feel the finance minister should be taking off, the decision of Nugs is the decision of Nugs. We go by that. If he decides otherwise, we go by that particular decision. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Final question. Final question for this round.
For this round, don't say wow.
Do you think that advocacy has lost its place in our Nugs activities? And now, place this question in the context of the Nugs of the ages and then the Nugs of today. Where are we starting from?
Dr. Sly.
I think with advocacy, I think that advocacy has not lost its place. Quite recently on the issue of school fees, we saw the need from USAC, where USAC brought the issue up, Nugs took it further, and we saw significant reduction. UCC followed, they reduced it to the 15%. Even Legon that insisted on this amount and later gave some reductions. And if we are to do the calculations across the number of students across the country, from UDS to WA to Legon to Tech, you realize that in the end, we put monies back into the pockets of students. Then again, we may say that the Nugs of yesterday did a lot on utility and all those stuff. But then again, in this our times, we've still been able to make headway in advocacies, talking about the school fees issue, talking about how far we've come with things like on cap get fund, talking about the pressure that we've seen from JIMTA and teacher trainee allowance to get allowances reduced. I think that we still be doing advocacy, but yet again, we will take it to the next level.
All right.
I feel advocacies in some years past and now current advocacies, the only difference is the shape it's taking. Those times, especially when during the days of Epos Bugabra, who was the Minister of Education, on the Mobrowa struggle leading to the establishment of GET Fund, he took vigorous actions by student leaders then to see to the establishment of GET Fund. In our days, those times when Nugs would have to work on a lot of advocacy, where they get on the streets shouting and making a lot of noise to make sure whatever thing they are advocating for becomes possible. In our days, we've seen a swift metamorphosis in our advocacies. In this case, we have a lot of stakeholder engagement. We present a lot of our petitions and engage the necessary quarters to make sure whatever thing we are advocating for indeed materialize.
You have more time if you want to wrap up, or you leave it there.
And evident among these advocacies include most of the things we've worked on, getting lecturers to come back to class, my days, getting the huge cases that has to do with the 499 students, the Rastafarian issue and all that clearly tells you the kind of advocacy the National Union of Ghana Students is taking.
Right, so thank you very much once again. I don't think advocacy has lost its place in conversations of the National Union of Ghana Students. Instead, advocacy has been dynamic in nature, hence how radical we could advocate in the olden days has changed comparatively to how we advocate today. In the middle of where we are today and where we are coming from, we've had one or two hitches, but I believe that with the good standing and the status quo that we've had, His Excellency then is set ahead when it has to do with advocacy. We are not far from raising the standard, and it will take a leader who has what it takes to do that. Thank you, I'm done.
All right, thank you.
Are you tired?
That wraps up with this round.
You're all tired. Look at slides, please.
So that's it for this round.
This is my timer. So who is next? Who's next?
I think I'll start.
You start. Okay. So there are some institutions that do not have SRCs on their council. As Nugs president, what is your plan for those institutions?
Depending on the sector the institution is coming from. For instance, if we have institutions like TAC not having SRCs, institutions from TAC not having SRCs on their councils, we'll have to tackle it from Prinko. Institutions like the universities that might not also have SRCs on their council, we can look at the Vice Chancellors Association, the unit that accommodates and then brings together all Vice Chancellors. I think if they don't have it, it's a conversation we need to stage.
They don't have it because the status of the institution doesn't allow it.
I would be very surprised if the status of a university doesn't allow SRC having representation.
The Gimpa SRC president is not on council.
But in the event that it is so, it is then our mandate and then it's our duty as an association to play an advocacy role and get that representation done. And as I said, it can probably be done if we are able to negotiate our way through it from the pivot of the issue. It has to do with the Vice Chancellor's end and the Principal's end. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for that question. So first of all, depending on the where the institution falls, whether the USAC or the GAPS, first of all, have engagement with the reps from those side as well. But then again, we also want to have an engagement with management of the school and also know their reason. Sometimes, in as much as the governing council would have to have the SRC president in there, knowing their point of view also helps you to advance an argument about dialogue to be able to establish anything. So first of all, what we do
You
is...
think that the view of the council chairman is more important than having your constituents being represented on the highest decision making body?
But then again, what I'm saying is that we want to know what their opinion first is on the matter.
Does it matter?
Yes, it matters. Because they may have very bad reasons why the SRC president should not be on council. And knowing that positions you to be able to know where to take the advocacy from and where to crack the whip.
Mr. Kirby.
Right, so I have clear examples of institutions like Abiam Institute of Technology and Kenza Institute of Nursing. Some of these two institutions at the point even didn't have SRCs at all, more or less like having a representation on the council. I would have to personally go there to sit the chancellor of the university down to really educate him much more using the loose constitutions on the essence of these groups. Yes, please. I have that kind of rapport. So he was asking more about the SRCs and even how best to have an establishment that would play a pivotal role in the activities of Nugs. So we went there to have these discussions. In schools like currently Winneba, Gimpa, whose SRCs are not on council, IMC, the information I'm having is as a result of the unavailability or inability of the student leaders to have a smooth running election.
That's false. I'm saying the university status does not have the SRC president on council. It's not about elections.
Okay, sure. So basically we would have to, as I already said, with the few examples I've worked on with the two institutions I just stated, who never had the SRC being represented on the council.
All right, gentlemen. The last one.
Look into the camera.
Alright, so thank you very much for giving us such an audience. This platform has given us room to elaborate more on our ideologies on what it takes to become the next Nugs president and how to build the front after you take up the mantle to become the next Nugs president. I am optimistic that given the nod to serve as the next Nugs president, the vision of building a resilient and robust leadership front that centers on incubating the ideas that has been nurtured in our policy document and inculcating whatever that the outgoing administration has done. There is more we can do, and there is better we can do, and there is much more we can do when you and I are together. Inclusive governance is a very important part of leadership, and that is what we'll be doing. Thank you very much. My name is BBC, and I look forward to getting your support.
Wow.
All right, thank you very much. I'll first of all say a very good morning to all the over 10 million Ghanaian students. I want to thank the vetting panel for giving us an opportunity to express ourselves, even with many smiles, to have us being quizzed all over the night. I think that it's been very instructive, it's been educative, and we've had a chance to tell people what we're going to do. And for me, I think that I like the passion with which the chair asked the questions. The very last round of questions before she
It's actually
I believe that there's been a lot of work that has gone into the union. There's been a lot of efforts. There's been a lot of ego setting aside. And trust me, a united Nugs is not just what we see. We need to go beyond those to be a union that provides scholarships for students, be a union that truly represents those in Sudan, truly represents people in Katsina and Kana, truly represents people in the Volta region. As we go to elections, let's go to choose somebody who has the track record of being able to lead and who will be able to represent the interests of students. Long live the National Union of Ghana Students. God bless our homeland Ghana and make our nation a great nation. My name is Dr. Slide, an executive master student of Central University College and an aspirant for the next president. Plan plus God, hopes alive. Plan plus God.
It's a very good morning to all Ghanaian students across the world. Today, as I sit here to speak, I'm having students from Gambai English and Arabic School who are sitting in front of their various social media platforms watching me live. So you sit back and you are very proud of yourself, of some of the impact you made in your life, changing the narrative on any day. Today, that is the same kind of vision we are bringing on board, an individual who is very keen on development, an individual who is very passion oriented and really loves the works of the union. In the coming days, we are going to build a very strong, robust, well-consolidated Nugs that will actively involve basic school students, the regional SRCs, and teacher trainees, the PUSAG, nurses, and every Ghanaian student in the country, that when you sit back, you hit your chest so hard that you are proud that you supported the Yamini agenda, the keen on development agenda.
So sometimes I like to ask.
I won't allow you to ask the question.
Oh, you don't like my question?
I'm the chairperson.
Okay, ask my question.
I won't ask the question.
Oh. What do you think about each other's performance?
Do you want to answer this question?
Yes.
What do you think about each other's performance?
You want to answer this question?
Not your own performance.
Yes.
I don't want to answer because I don't want anybody to know.
Hey, I want to. It's okay, nobody's
But what do
answering
you
this
think
question.
of our performance?
Oh, honestly,
Offend us.
I think I would rather want to talk about it like personally, but I think it was a good panel. I think I liked your round of questions. Like, to be honest, I think it brought the passion of why are you running for this president? It brought that out. And honestly, was a bit hard on us, but we have to appreciate it. I think the grill was really.
According to my acting.
Grill was real because
I was not hard on
he
you.
came from. I'm coming to you. He came from a point of someone who's really been in USAG, knowing the difficulties, and you can say that, hey, this policy. I think just like the way sometimes we sit back and look at us as presidential aspirants and go like, you are joking. I like the constitutional bill from Palmer too. I think, and then for
I was a nice person.
I think you got your lawyer self and trying to tease everything out of you and wanting to get a reason why. Every time wanting to do it, but that was it. And then to Awal, I think it was the gentleman on the panel. Hi Mabel. I like you.
So I'll come.
Are you done?
But BBC really like
Do you also think I'm a movie?
second round. After the first one, I think that one talk about it.
Oh, I think we had an intellectual discussion to get the best version of everyone who wants to become a new president. And I'm so certain that whoever watched this process can now take a decision on who he wants to go in for. And that is what I
That
actually
is
wanted
what
to
we
happen.
wanted to.
Yeah, that's cool.
That is why we set this up.
That is what we wanted to.
That's why we use the three of you.
I must sincerely commend the vetting committee for doing an exceptional work. I'm also proud of the aspirants. At this material moment, I'm very proud that if for nothing at all, we have passion-oriented individuals who want to lead the union and take the union. On any day, we had always wanted leaders who really love the union, not just people who just come, just communicate and just live. And when given the nod, they can't walk their talk. I love the passion we are putting up, and I hope that in the coming days, anybody that wins will be able to join forces together and put the name of our union up. Thank you very much.
In this room, everybody's talking about love. Let me tell you one person I also admire and love. And I want to be biased, is this gentleman. I keep saying it. I can't believe that gentleman like you have been coming here from yesterday to today. God bless you. He replenish it. I really admire your relentlessness. I really do admire it. Keep it up. Thank you so much for coming. We wish you the very best.
Yes, I'm here all the time.
You will hear from us.
So we're here to support you.
And we wish you the very best in your elections. Thank you all for joining. I'm surprised you're all still watching. Thank you. God bless you.
Peace out. Peace out.
You are not involved in this. Can be force majeure.
No,